I'm 52 years old, and for most of my life, I've taken the safer path. Love, for me, was consistent and calm, like the steady rhythm of a well-worn clock. I married young, raised 2 children, and poured everything I had into the life we built. I never strayed, never even looked beyond what was right in front of me. I believed that if you did everything right, nothing could shake the ground beneath you. But I was wrong, and I hope you don't make the same mistake I did. The first time I noticed the leak beneath the kitchen sink, it was barely noticeable, a few droplets clinging to the pipe after I ran the dishwasher. I wiped it up with an old towel and forgot about it. A few days later, though, I spotted a small puddle creeping across the tile, soaking into the corners of the rug I kept there. That's when I realized I needed help. My husband, Darren, was out of town for work, a conference in Boston. I always hated when he traveled. The house felt bigger when he was gone, quieter, especially now that both of our kids had moved out and were living hours away. I could have called a plumber, but Darren always relied on his closest friend, Ray, for these kinds of things. "He's practically family," Darren would say, and he was right. Ray had been around since college. He was in our wedding, held our daughter when she was born. So I sent him a message. "Hey Ray, small leak under the sink. Any chance you could swing by sometime this week?" His reply came fast. "I can be there in 20. Hang tight." I didn't have time to second-guess myself. I brushed the hair from my face, glanced in the hallway mirror just to make sure I didn't look too thrown together, and tried to ignore the strange flutter in my chest. When he knocked, I opened the door and found him standing there, same easy smile, toolbox in hand. He looked familiar, rugged with a few more gray streaks than last time, but still had that grounded energy that made people naturally trust him. "Hey Lila," he said. "Let me take a look. Thanks for coming. Sorry to bug you." "It's no trouble. Better I fix it now before you end up with a swimming pool under the cabinet." He dropped to one knee, head under the sink, flashlight in hand. I stood off to the side, arms crossed, just listening to him work. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of old wood and the fridge humming in the background. "Looks like a loose valve," he murmured, voice echoing off the cabinet walls. "Simple fix." He reached for his wrench, started tightening something. I found myself staring at the back of his neck, the way his shirt bunched slightly, the hint of curls near his collar. I looked away, suddenly flushed. What was wrong with me? "You all right, Lila?" he asked, glancing back. "Yeah, just tired." He stood up, wiping his hands on a cloth. "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" I blinked. I hadn't realized how long it had been since someone asked how I was. Really asked. Not just in passing. "I'm fine," I said, but even I didn't believe myself. He tilted his head slightly. "You look like you're carrying something heavy." I let out a small laugh, trying to shake off the emotion rising in my chest. "It's just been a weird year, that's all. The kids moved out. Darren's traveling more. The house gets so quiet sometimes I can hear the clock tick." He didn't smile. He just looked at me, really looked at me, with those steady eyes that always made me a little uneasy. Not because they were intense, but because they saw too much. "I know what you mean," he said quietly. "After my split, I used to sit on the couch and listen to the silence. It gets loud." He nodded. The air between us thickened. Not uncomfortable, just heavier. "You ever feel like you're disappearing?" Yes. He didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, he reached out and placed his hand over mine where it rested on the counter. "Only when I pretend everything's okay." My breath caught. His hand was warm, familiar. But in that moment, it felt like something more, something unspoken breaking the surface between us. I should have pulled away. I didn't. I looked down at our hands, then up at his face. The world fell quiet. No fridge hum, no ticking clock, no outside noise. Just that space between us, holding its breath. Ray spoke first. His voice was soft, barely above a whisper. "You don't have to pretend with me, Lila." My heart stuttered. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the kitchen moment over and over. The way his hand felt. The weight in his gaze. The way he said my name like it mattered. Darren called later that night. I answered with the voice I'd practiced for years. Steady, upbeat. "Hey, how's Boston?" Cold. Boring. Full of guys bragging about sales numbers. He laughed. "How's the house?" "Fine. Quiet." Ray stopped by to fix the leak. "Good guy," Darren said without a second thought. "Told you he'd take care of it." "Yeah," I replied, "he did." After we hung up, I stood at the sink, wiping a perfectly dry countertop with a dish towel. My hands were shaking. I wasn't sure what I was feeling. Guilt maybe. But more than that, it was the strange relief of being seen. Not as Darren's wife. Not as mom. Just as me. The next morning I tried to push it aside. Busy. Cleaned the pantry. Took the dog for a walk. Ran errands. But my thoughts drifted back to the kitchen. To that stillness. Ray. I didn't reach out. I didn't have to. He messaged me first. "You okay?" 3 words. That's all. But they hit harder than I expected. I stared at them for too long, then typed back. "I don't know. Maybe. Can we talk?" He came over later that day, no toolbox, no pretense. Just him, in a soft flannel shirt. We sat on the back patio, wrapped in blankets, the late fall breeze rustling the dry leaves. "I didn't mean to cross a line," he said, cradling his mug. "I just saw something in your eyes. Something I knew too well." "You didn't cross a line," I said quietly. "Or maybe you did, but I didn't stop you." We sat there quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like safety. "I've been lonely," I admitted. Not sad. Just fading. Like I'm watching my own life through glass. He looked at me with something like understanding. "I think we both have." And there was comfort in that, danger too. A hunger that matched mine. "I can't ruin what I've built," I whispered. "Even if it's not exciting, it's dependable." "Yeah," he said. "But sometimes dependable starts to feel like a prison." We talked for hours. He reminded me of a trip we all took years ago. A lake house, sunburns, tangled fishing lines. "You were always reading by the water," he said, smiling. "Bare feet, messy hair, lost in your book." "I remember." I laughed. "I didn't think you noticed." "I noticed everything." That stayed with me. Later, after he left, I stood at the window and whispered into the fading light. "Thank you. Not for stirring up chaos, but for waking me up." Darren came home 2 days later. Kissed my cheek. Told me he missed me. We went about our normal routine, but I was no longer the same. Eventually I told him the truth. Not about Ray exactly, but about the ache. About feeling invisible. About how numb I'd become. To my surprise, he listened. Took my hand. Told me he'd felt it too. We talked that night for the first time in years. Really talked. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And sometimes that's the start of something better. I never texted Ray again. I didn't need to. What happened wasn't about infidelity. It wasn't about crossing lines. It was about being reminded that I still existed. And that changed everything.